Hello everyone, it's Daz, and I hope your 2019 is off to a pleasant start. This week I want to talk about some things that have been on my mind. This is part 18. It's been a while since I've done one of these videos, probably because I stream and I talk often about what's on my mind, so I don't see a need to do videos like this as much anymore. But with everything going on and work, I wanted to share some 2019 predictions that I have. These predictions are not in any way prophecies. This is just my opinion based on looking at factors at play here, as well as how work is going and sort of how I'm feeling about it at the moment. So starting off, I haven't really been keeping up with a lot of modern or contemporary events. I'm just too busy working, and so what I get basically is just little snippets from what people post, and I don't have as much time anymore to watch longer YouTube videos like I used to, so a lot of ways I got my information are completely different now. And one thing I do hear about a lot because it's taking place is this government shutdown. And people around me are freaking out over it, and I don't work in government. I work in nonprofit. There are a lot of people who aren't getting paid, and this is all over the wall, and with Democrats controlling the House, I doubt that this shutdown is going to end anytime soon. Now, the longest government shutdown that took place was under the Clinton administration in December of 1995. The second longest was under the Obama administration in 2013 of October. But I believe that it's going to at least go longer than the one under Obama in 2013 and possibly go longer than the one in 1995 because, let's be honest, the core of Trump's presidency is about the wall and national security. So with that being said, you have a lot of people who are upset because they're no longer being paid. And for those who follow my channel, you'll know that I work at a food bank, and my primary function at the food bank is assisting people finding out where local pantries are, figuring out if they're eligible for SNAP, and signing them up for SNAP, otherwise known as food stamps. And so I take calls in a call center as well as go out and do outreach events and inform people about these things. And what I'm finding is that we already got our first calls from people who are government employees who are saying, hey, I think I'm gonna need to use this food assistance. Now, here's the issue. They've already projected if this shutdown goes on any longer, and I believe damage has already been done, that only 64% of people are going to get their SNAP benefits, which means you're going to have about 36% who are out of benefits, and if too many people want these benefits, eligibility is going to have to change. So I do think we're going to see more of that. Also, commodity food boxes, because everyone always talks about SNAP, but commodity food boxes is another area that our food bank deals with for seniors or for TFAP. They're going to be negatively impacted by this as well, and I can't help but think, especially after I went to a lunch gathering with my coworkers on Friday because it was the last day of one of my coworkers that I'm deeply going to miss. I was sitting at the plaza, which is a fairly nice area where there's a lot of strip malls and areas to eat, and I saw a few lone homeless people that seemed out of their element there because with the line of work I do, I often go down to community meals, shelters, and areas that are run down, forgotten, abandoned, slums practically. And so to see these people out there begging was quite sad, but also I began to have an image form in my mind of the future where if this sort of gridlock persists, and I do believe that whether it's under the Trump administration or it's under a new administration, that we are going to see a recession in the next, I'd even say 2 to 3 years, but I think it could come as soon as 2019. I don't think we're going to go 5 years without it because basically there's a trade war going on and it's just a mess right now. And so I could see in the future where people are enraged because they've either lost their job, they've lost their money, their 401ks have devalued, they no longer can eat. We have to cut government programs because, let's be honest, not enough people would be able to be on them, or only people in dire circumstances. But if too many people are in dire circumstances, then what do you do then? There might need to be rationing of some sort. And I know I'm kind of going with this sort of end-of-the-world, post-apocalyptic or apocalyptic sort of ideal, martial law being implemented. But I could see, and I do believe the Purge and television shows like that, they even made a show for the Purge that I watched a little bit of, our social conditioning and predictive programming for our future, where people are gathering ideas that if everything goes to hell, they're going to seize what they want. And so I just had this image of no one expecting it, but people just taking the areas by storm, rioting, looting, just mass mayhem in the streets if people are no longer able to eat. And, the first people that are going to be hurt are those that are the poorest. But many of them have learned to survive off of little to nothing. And then you're going to have people who have had something but are no longer going to have anything at all. And my mom constantly has told me this, and my mom works in banking, I work in social services, so we have conversations about economics and about class and about everything. And as someone who majored in sociology, class and class dynamics, societal factors are something that I study closely, and I like to compare it to prophecy as a theology nerd. But I really noticed that most people are just a paycheck away, in my opinion, to homelessness or extreme poverty. And I feel like a lot of people in poverty are just a meal away from starvation and rage. And I believe hangry is a thing for a lot of people. Even people that eat regularly often get angry when they're hungry. I never took the phrase "I'm hungry" as seriously as I do now. I never took food insecurity as serious as I do now that I work at a food bank. I have people that I look in the eyes every day who tell me how hungry they are. They're filled with frustration, anger, fathers that are unable to provide for their families, mothers that are unable to provide for their families. And just for whatever reason, I know that a lot of people will say it's drugs. They'll say that it's poor decisions, mismanagement of money, whatever the case is, addiction. But sometimes people who had a sick family member or fell sick had to file for bankruptcy. You have veterans, you have people who were a part of the foster care system who didn't get life skills, who were dumped on the street at 18 and remain on the street. But whatever the case scenario is, I deal with the people who have fallen through the cracks of society. And sadly, a lot of people think that they're doing a lot better, but economically, if they lose their job, or they could be in the same position as these same people. And so that's something that I do foresee, is the economy crashing, extreme poverty, extreme hunger, famine in the land. I believe we always look at famine as the crops dying out, but I also believe famine can also be inability to afford food as well, and mass food insecurity for many households. I also believe that with the calamities that we will see actual famine as well. And I know I'm sounding really doomsday-ish, and I know I'm not really giving happy predictions, but just working in social services, working in nonprofit, dealing with people every day with real world problems, I feel like this is something that's inevitable, that's on the horizon. And with that being said, I know I've been all doom and gloomy, talking about a little bit about work life as a segue into this. I will admit that I am feeling a lot of fatigue, some burnout from what I'm doing. For one thing, I get New Year's, bring on new goals, new missions, and we have had a crazy time with my service year. My service year is measured by the amount of hours I do. I have to do 1,720 hours in 12 months, and I've been pulling 8-hour work weeks, so I should be done early. However, we've had just a crazy time with no manager for the first 2 months. Then when we finally got a manager, our coordinator left, so we've been coordinator-less for 2 months. And now we lost one of our fellow co-workers, so now we're down to 3 people, and our manager has a lot on her plate, but she's making new demands that I feel to some extent that we're unable to meet. Some of my coworkers have voiced those concerns, but I feel like I'm pulling all of the weight at work. And that's something that I just want you guys to pray about, because I want to see the success of whatever I do. I'm an ambitious person. I used to be a perfectionist. I try not to be anymore, just for the sake of sanity and reality, but I don't like to see failure. I don't like to see subpar work, and I will work, even if I have to pull all of the weight. But it's really tiring me out, and I've even considered pulling longer work weeks just so things can get done, because I'm worried now that we're down a coworker. The coworker that left worked the second hardest. I think she was a hard worker, but she was part-time, but when she was there, she really helped out a lot. One coworker doesn't work as much, and then the other one literally does like next to nothing. And so that's one thing I've been frustrated about. Like, I'm getting the most applications, I'm doing the most calling and interactions, yet I'm out of the office the most, which makes no sense whatsoever. So with that being said, that's something I definitely want prayer about. Another thing that I'd like prayer about is I mentioned in the last stream I did for the year that I was involved in a car accident while at work in a company car, and I'm okay. The car was undrivable, and the whole situation was a hot mess because everybody was out of office that week. I was the only one working because I didn't take any time off for the holiday season besides what they gave us off. And I didn't really know who to contact or anything, but I did do my best with the situation that I was in. And it was just awful in the fact that both airbags deployed, I breathed in the fumes, I had to get pried out of the car, and everything got recorded and everything, but I'm just worried about any consequences of it. Even though it wasn't my car, I wasn't at fault because I didn't have a stop sign. The individual that did have a stop sign plowed into me, but still, I just always just want prayer for that, because I know that we're in a season too as believers where we're just being attacked from left and right. It's interesting because this happened about a week or two after I made the video about my work life stories and how I was going through a lot of odd experiences with some of the people that I was dealing with at events. And I haven't really dealt with the one guy I mentioned who tried to look and act like Prince. However, the other guy that I nicknamed Fred, he has been acting weirder and weirder and more fixated to the point he's sitting in areas where he can just stare at me, and he's hanging around about 15 to 20 minutes after eating just to stare. Some of you have recommended being more vocal about it, and if things continue to be worse, I'll talk more to security or whoever works there. I have voiced the concern of safety to those at my job, but still there's a lot of disconnect with that, and some of you have recommended me quitting. I want to fight hard enough not to quit because I want to finish out this term, but if things got really bad, and that's another thing I'm concerned about with the shutdown working in social services, I will refuse to go to events if people's benefits get cut or they're unable to process applications, because to me that's a slap in the face to sit there and not have anything to offer them, and I don't want to deal with people's rage and be the sacrifice for that rage. So that's another concern that I have going into the next few months. I have till July. Technically everything's up in August. I should be done early, but those are just some of my concerns at work, and I know I kind of blabbered and rambled on. I know I wasn't overly positive, but I will say that all of these situations have really strengthened my faith and trust for the Most High. For instance, it's true, it was awful to get into a car accident, but I was so thankful that I was spared and that I didn't have any broken bones, bruises, scrapes, scratches, even if the car was very wrecked. So I thank you everyone for listening, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week. Take care, and God bless.